Right, so for those of you that may have watched my previous video on the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, I mentioned that F1 fans have a weird relationship with team orders, and I promised to elaborate that on a future video, which, here it is. First and foremost, thank you to all of those who watched the video. I really do appreciate it. Again, this channel is basically just a rant for me to a way for me to just rant my opinions about F1, and I'm grateful to everyone who chooses to listen in when there are so many takes out there. So thank you. But anyway, so you know, team orders in F1 first and foremost are not uncommon. Just to give a few examples, you've got the Alonso Massa situation in Hockenheim 2010. You know, the whole Felipe is faster than you. You've got Webber and Vettel in 2013 in Sepang, Multi 21. Anyone? You've also got Hamilton and Rosberg in the same race as well, which is something that tends to get overlooked because, well, Multi 21 kind of took the center stage. Skipping forward a few years, you've got Hamilton and Bottas in Sochi 2018. You've obviously got Brazil 2022. And if you want, you can even go further back than 2010. Think about Schumacher and Barrichello in 2002, when Barrichello was infamously told just a few races into the season to give up the first place and give it to Schumacher, who was running away with the championship but was going to win it anyway. So, one thing I noticed just by having a quick look at all the incidents mentioned above is that all the flashpoints kind of made F1 fans irate in different ways. Specifically, there are two main categories, and they're very simple categories. The first category is the driver following the orders. Think 2002, 2010, 2018, when Barrichello, Massa, and Bottas respectively gave up their positions. Or a driver not following the orders. Think 2013 with Multi 21 and the whole Brazilian, or rather the Sao Paulo Grand Prix fiasco with Verstappen and Perez. Now, it's probably fair to say that most fans, at least most F1 fans, don't really like the idea of team orders. The fact that a team can manipulate the results of a race just by ordering one driver to slow down or act tactically in favor of their teammate. Most people, I think, probably do not like that. But again, as the situations mentioned previously have shown, that depending on the situation, they may actually, choose to vilify the person who chooses to defy them. Hence Vettel and Verstappen. Furthermore, you also have this weird situation where some fans will choose to, support a driver, or at least, kind of be okay with a driver admitting that they would have followed team orders. Case in point, when in the same race, same Sao Paulo 2022 race, Sainz after the race actually said that had the order come through from Ferrari to slow down, give Leclerc the position, that actually he would have done it. And most people seem to be okay with that. If anything, they use that to beat Verstappen over the head with. So again, it's a weird relationship that F1 fans have with team orders, where depending on different scenarios, F1 fans choose to vilify the person who disobeys them. F1 fans choose to applaud the person who disobeys them, and a bit in between. So it's a bit all over the place. And again, why is this? I think it's kind of important to potentially give out a few reasons of why this might be. I don't claim this to be extensive. There are probably different factors that go into an F1 fan's opinion about certain situations. Not all F1 fans are the same. So again, take all of this as a non-extensive list and just my kind of thoughts about the whole situation. First things first, context is key. Context is always key with these situations, and I wish some F1 fans online kind of, applied context to more general situations in F1. However, in this kind of team orders um, instance, say, you've got Perez and Verstappen in RB and Vettel and Webber in 2013, also with RB Red Bull. And I've written down here, just kind of kick a driver went down, question mark, because it seems that, look back at the situations, Perez and Webber, the drivers who were supposedly kicked to the curb by their teammates, they were very likable. Perez has a huge Mexican fan base, and a lot of people really wanted Perez to get that seat over Alex Albon back in 2019, or rather 2020, apologies. And, that win in Sakhir was a real feel-good moment in F1. And Perez has been constantly, king of the midfield since 2014, since the Turbo Hybrid era began. And a lot of people really like Perez. Same with Webber. A lot of people like the affable Australian, or at least, they liked him because obviously he's no longer racing in F1 at the moment, or rather, ever, to be honest. So a lot of people really liked Webber. He liked his straight talkingness, and, I still remember the elation that he had when he got his first win for Red Bull in the Nürburgring in 2009, back when we used to race at the Nürburgring. For any newer F1 fans, I do recommend trying to find a video, at least a sound clip of Webber's race winning audio. It is genuinely very, very wholesome. So again, a lot of people really liked these two guys, and conversely, not many people liked Vettel or Verstappen, or rather, liked past tense for Vettel, because obviously now everyone loves Sebastian, and for good reason, but back then, not many people did. There was a lot of perceived arrogance. His finger pointing celebration wowed a lot of fans the wrong way, me included at times, to be brutally honest. And then Verstappen has a list of situations where he hasn't really come across in the best light. He really did cause a diplomatic incident with the Mongolian government back in 2020, when he called a driver a Mong over the team radio, which, is an offensive term. That was a trip in and of itself. There's also links with Nelson Piquet Jr. Well, not Nelson Piquet Jr., Nelson Piquet, which, again, less said about him, the better. And, but then again, you could very easily say that all this is kind of arrogance. These are kind of traits that define a world champion, of which, Vettel and Verstappen are worthy world champions. And here's the thing. We seem to like these traits in drivers when they're expressed in the right time. In cases like this, in cases that involve team orders, maybe this is less of a case, less prevalent, or rather less relevant, I should say. So public perception of a driver definitely plays a role. Vettel and Verstappen already had this kind of air of, let's say, not favorable in the court of public opinion when these situations happened. So that's one aspect I do want to think about, just the wider aspects surrounding the teammates, for sure. Similarly, I also want to say that a driver knows they can do it. That's another aspect that I want to talk about, is when a driver knows they can do it. For example, with Red Bull, Verstappen and Vettel knew that they were the favorite child, if you so will, and they could probably get away with everything, or rather anything, if they wanted to. I do remember this back in 2010 with Vettel and Webber, when in the famous Istanbul Grand Prix, Turkish Grand Prix 2010, which again, highly recommend that race to watch. It was probably one of the best races to rewatch, for sure. But basically, for those who don't know, Vettel and Webber collide on the back straight. Vettel, to the observer, and again to most analysts, it seemed like Vettel had unintentionally veered across into Webber. Again, I say unintentionally, we just don't know. But anyway, he seems to veer across into Webber, took Sebastian out of the race. Webber managed to recover and finished third. And a lot of people, suggested that Webber or rather Vettel was the aggressor here, and Webber was the more innocent bystander. But actually, the public line coming from Red Bull after the race was that it's actually Webber's error. And again, you see a lot of this in Red Bull today with Perez and Verstappen. Verstappen getting preferential treatment, and generally the car being built more towards Verstappen than Perez. Which you can say what you think about that, but it's generally accepted to be the case, and indeed it is a smart thing to do. Why would you build it towards your slow, quote unquote slower driver when Verstappen is clearly once in a generation talent, up there with the likes of Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc? So again, leverage does play a role in this. Similarly, I do think a lot of us do kind of feel pity, or a lot of F1 fans do kind of feel pity for the driver that gets is the victim of this, which again is quite interesting, because a lot of F1 fans tend to be very cutthroat about drivers. Like, if you're not seen as a good enough driver in the court of public perception, F1 fans waste little to no time calling for your head to be removed. And yet, in these situations, Perez and Webber, despite being slower than their teammates, kind of got the favorable opinion in the court of public opinion. Even though I do remember at the time, there were calls for Webber to be replaced at Red Bull, just because they felt that he wasn't really. A lot of F1 fans felt that he wasn't really performing, certainly relative to Vettel, and you also see that now these days with Perez and Verstappen, where Perez hasn't really gone on to reach the heights that Verstappen has. So I do think there was kind of a sympathy there as well. There's obviously a correlation between kind of leverage and how dominant a driver is, at least within the team. So, for example, you've got Schumacher and Barrichello. Schumacher was clearly number one driver there. Hamilton and Bottas. Hamilton was clearly number one there, and indeed, I think I'm not quite sure, but I think Sochi was either the race that put Bottas out of mathematical contention for that World Championship, or it happened not long before, or rather in the lead up to that race, one of the races leading up to Sochi. So again, you've got that aspect of it as well. So obviously there are times when there is kind of no leverage and you still disobey team orders as well. There have been a few times this season where it seems like a driver is kind of on equal footing, or maybe even a lesser favored driver in the team, and they've kind of disobeyed team orders. So again, many factors kind of play into this kind of situation, and indeed what we perceive to have happened as F1 fans when team orders occur. So in conclusion, it's a very complex topic. Many factors. Team orders, however, will always be a thing, even when they are outlawed. Again, Fernando is faster than anyone. That was in 2010. The code given to Felipe Massa, because team orders essentially were banned in 2010. So Ferrari had to use a quote-unquote coded message, Fernando is faster than you, to tell Massa to essentially just shove off and give the position to Alonso. So again, this will always occur. And this will always continue to cause a lot of unease within the F1 fandom and between F1 fans. Whether you believe it's right, whether you believe it's wrong, it's important to think about this on a case-by-case basis, and think about your own thoughts about this as well. Don't necessarily just go along with the crowd, because the crowd isn't necessarily always right, or will always say what you think. And yeah, it's a complex topic. Many fans have their own opinion about it. Thank you for listening.